Fast forwarding to now, so today was day 8 of our preseason practices. And I think I've watched growth take place, and I may have mentioned this for those that maybe talked to me before or after we went to France, that I've seen growth from everybody up and down the lineup, that I've seen guys get better. And I think that's, at this point in time, we've turned up the volume in terms of the reps, in terms of the teaching components that go on in the preseason that I didn't give them as much, specifically in the defensive end in the summer, for a variety of reasons. But I like the way they've worked, and I've always said that when a team has a good work ethic, it allows you to just coach basketball and help them improve. So how they've approached these last 8 days has been terrific. I couldn't have asked for anything more, but we obviously are much further ahead than we were 8 days ago. We're further ahead than where we were when we left for France, but we've got a long ways to go. So again, I know you'll probably have questions to dive into more specific things, but I like what I'm seeing. But we've got to continue to make progress and grow together and get ready for what's coming.
Thanks, Coach. We have microphones that'll be on either side of the room, so if you can raise your hand, we will get to as many questions as we can. Jeff, you want to go first?
Greg, you've got a couple of new faces, obviously, in Kamari and Max. I'm sure the Paris trip helped them in the transition. What do you expect from those two guys, and how is the transition going for them, at least to date, what you can tell us?
Yeah, I think you're right. The trip did help them. I think it put them in an environment of playing games that obviously wouldn't have happened until a month from now had we not had that trip. I think the one thing that really jumps out about both those guys, they're obviously different players, different personalities, but they both have college basketball experience. Obviously, Max has a little more than Kamari, but you can tell, and I could tell that right away in the summer, that when the other newcomers or freshmen were a little half-stepping or wide-eyed, that those guys, even though it was a different place with different colors and different coaches, that they had been through the drill a little bit and understood what they were getting themselves into. It still didn't reduce the amount that they had to learn, and obviously we do things our way, and but they've both picked up on it really well. But I think the experience, and even seeing that in France, just shows. When Max has 2 years, Kamari has 1, and I think anytime, I've always said, the best teacher's experience. So they've helped in that regard. Now it's a matter of, specifically on a defensive end, of learning our rules and making those habits, and not just thoughts. They have to be habits so they can play instinctually and not have to think. And these 8 days have put them in more of those situations where that gets tested more. And like I said, they both have effort, just like everybody else has been terrific. And I like the fact that they bring some experience to our locker room and our backcourt.
Go Abby, then Ro.
Greg, Jacoby Neath obviously played on an injury last year, had a surgery at the end of last season, and then has been dealing with his recovery. I know Coach O mentioned that today's one of the biggest reps he's had. How have you seen him handle this recovery, both physically and mentally?
Well, I think Jacoby can probably speak better to that mentally than I can. I think he's been fine, but I think it's also, there's a level of frustration that comes with it. Today is the first day he's practiced full throttle, literally since the time he had before the surgery. So we all the way back to last spring. So and I thought, for not having a lot of reps and he's been doing a lot of non-contact things until today was the first day he really kind of got let loose. He had to leave for class, that's why he was not there at the end. But I think he's got there's catching up to do. There's no doubt. I mean, there's reps that he hasn't gotten. He hasn't really played in a competitive environment since last March. So when you have that much time off, I think he'll catch up quicker than most, just because he's, again, much like Kamari and Max, has experience. So I thought he was very astute today, and you could tell he'd been in our drills before from a year ago. But he's missed a lot. So I think now it's a matter of balancing, catching up, and staying healthy. Because we can't fully load him. And he'll be on a little bit of pitch count as we ease him back into this contact period. But I know he's frustrated that he hasn't been able to be out there, but we've also tried to make sure he's out there down the road when we when we get to game competition.
Raul?
Greg, it's still incredibly early, but just curious, with only a handful of guys returning with meaningful college experience, do you envision having a longer lineup than usual this season, or longer rotation, I should say?
I don't know. It's a good question, but I don't know yet. Honestly, if we had to play tonight, I don't know who would start yet. So I really haven't in my mind. I played a lot of guys in France, and that was well documented. I played as many as I felt could play. I think we used 11 consistently. Jacoby obviously would have been in the mix had he not been still hurt or still recovering. So I don't know how it won't go 12. I mean, I think that's not possible. I think I was able to do that for a variety of reasons over there and wanted to do it. So will it be 8? Will it be 9? Will it be 7? Will it be 10? It may vary by the game. It may vary by matchups. It may vary by who's healthy. It may vary by who's playing well, who's not. I think that can be, we'll have the core will be pretty, I think, consistent, but maybe how guys respond and how guys grow. I mean, the jumps Chris Hodges has made, even in 8 days, I've seen more and more. And, he's not anywhere near where he needs to be or will be. Just physically, he's gotten bigger and stronger, but I kind of crystal ball him physically 12 months from now yet and what he can do. But like I said, guys just need to continue to get better, and that will put them in position to make this. I always tell them, make it hard on me. Make it really hard for me to decide, man, I got to have him on the floor. And if I have a lot of guys that I have that option with, then we're going to be a better team.
So, Jeff, then back to Abby.
You mentioned experience, and Marcus Ober obviously only got a handful of minutes here last year, but I think you said, and he said that he felt better coming out of playing for his national team this past summer. What did your crystal ball see for him, perhaps, this year? Best case scenario, what you hope he can give you?
Well, I think we saw some of that in France. He led us in rebounding. He led us in three-point shooting. Obviously, the level of competition is going to ramp up, specifically physically, in terms of the physical play. And I think that's one thing that he's gotten better at. Obviously, you look at him physically, he's in a better position. He weighs more, he can lift more, all those things that come with that. I think he's more confident because he's stronger. But it's still a matter of, there's so many unknowns with this group. I want to see, and you're going to probably learn right as I learned, underneath the lights with people in the seats, how we respond in those situations. And Marcus is one of those that hasn't been in a lot of those situations with us. He's been with his national team, but in terms of, how do you respond? How do you handle adversity? How do you grow through the year? I think he's still, not where he can be and will be in a variety of ways, but I liked what I saw in France. Now we've got to continue to make that better and more consistent as we walk through this month.
Abby?
Greg, last year you had Chris Vogt backing up Steven at center. This year you have Chris Hodges. Obviously a different level of experience there. How do you anticipate that changing the dynamic at the center position on the floor this year?
Well, I don't get as caught up in numbers in terms of positions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as maybe I did, or the game has changed so much. So I think just how the game has transitioned and trended to more open floor, transition, shooting threes, positionless basketball. I think you also look at that, how do you counter positionlessly defensively. So there may be a combination on the floor where you're going to wonder who is the 5, because it may not stand out, meaning there's not another 7-footer coming in. So I think that's something that we have ideas as a staff of what we will be doing. I think these guys are learning that, and that's the beauty of how we've always coached and how we've always tried to play, and specifically within our system, having somebody that everybody has to do post-defensive drills. Everybody gets those reps. Everybody gets passing drills. We try to develop the most complete player possible, and that's, you think develop a player, you're thinking just offense, but there's the defensive component to it as well. Big guys that have to chase screens, and learning that technique. And I think it puts them in position to help add more tools to their toolbox of their game, but it also gives them an appreciation for what their teammates are having to do. So if you have a guard who has to work in the post defensive drills or guard somebody in the post, they have an appreciation for what the big guys go through more consistently. If you have the bigs that have to chase screens, now they get an idea what the guards are going through. So maybe they, as they tie this all together, they learn to help and rely on each other more, and will try to do their job better because it helps their teammate. So I know that's a long-winded answer to your question about who's going to be the backup five. There may not be a five on the floor. It may be 2 4s. It may be 2 3s and a 4. I mean, and there's a variety of ways you can play and counter if you don't have another 7-footer, so to speak, trapping the post, which we've done. Our best post defensive players haven't been our tallest guys over the years. If you look through the history of the guys we've had, quite frankly, if you gave me a draft and said pick the best post defensive players you had, it wouldn't be guys that are 6'11", 7 feet.
Jocko.
Coach, for the last several years, this has been Brad's team and a little bit of Johnny's team as well. How excited do you think this team is to create their own identity?
Well, I think that's the neat part I mentioned about the unknown and learning as we go. That's the exciting part for me, that I've learned every day, not only in terms of performance on the floor, but I've listened. I told them a couple days ago, I not only watch what you're doing on the floor, I listen. And where are the voices? And where is the leadership developing from? I just had, for those that really follow us, you may recognize a face in practice. Dave Anderson flew in from LA to spend a couple days with us, who runs the Learn to Lead Academy, and I've had him in before. He's written a couple books that you may be familiar with. But that is part of that. I think leadership is always, I can't anoint somebody a leader. It's organic. They will naturally find their way, find their voice, and leaders are always come in different shapes and sizes. It doesn't mean you have to be the most vocal guy. You can lead by example. It doesn't mean you have to play 35 minutes a game. You can set good examples and be a good role model in other areas that will help our locker room. So I think you look to, all right, obviously Tyler Wall will have a bigger role in that leadership. Chucky Hepburn, I think, is more comfortable with his voice. Max Klesmet, for being a newcomer, I identified him right away, that I think he will, as he becomes more comfortable and more accustomed to who we are and what we're about. I think being from the state helps him because he's grown up around it and has watched Badger basketball for a long time. So it can be leadership by committee too. And when you don't have a voice that's dominant, then the coaches need to step in and have more of an influence in that regard when it's needed.
Jim.
25 games in a Big Ten championship last year, despite shooting under 31% from three-point range. Does that percentage need to go up, do you think, this year? And where's your confidence level that it can go up?
I think it will go up. I think we're different as a team. I think we're going to play a little differently. It may not look differently from the outside, but I think how we will find our offense will be a little bit different. Obviously, you lose a Big Ten Player of the Year and a Jerry West Award winner. I mean, he made me look really, really smart at times. And the best play we had was get to Johnny the ball and get out of the way sometimes. So we obviously, you adjust and adapt offensively more than you do defensively. And not that you make holistic changes, but I've always looked at what's going to be the strength of our team based on the individual talents we have, and then formulate, without going way off the rails, formulate a plan how to best put those guys in position. And that's what you saw a little bit of that today. That's what we've been working on, and how we will best use this group. And to Abby's question about the defensive end of it, of maybe not having, you wouldn't be able to tell who's the 2 or the 3 or the 4 or the 5 at times. There'll be some positionalist look where there's going to be, I think, move the ball, move bodies, regardless of who's on the floor, will help you. The goals are still the same. You still want to get to the free throw line. You want to touch the post and play inside out. You want to score in transition when it's possible. The end goals of how we'll go about doing it, or where we want to get to, will remain the same. Maybe how we go about it, maybe a little bit differently in terms of, like I mentioned, a Johnny. You can still score in other ways, but that most likely will turn into, there's going to be, this group will and can and will need to shoot threes, and it may be more threes. I mean, that's becomes such a big part of the game. You look at the next level, it's transition and it's threes. I mean, and we're not going to, and it becomes that because of some of the defensive rules they have. But I think this group is going to do it more by committee maybe than by a, kind of a splash like Johnny made.
Go ahead.
Greg, Steven's another guy who appears to have grown physically in the offseason. What do you like about what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's more confident, and I think the thing that ignited the confidence for him, as you mentioned, bigger. I mean, he's gone from under 220 he played at last year, low 220s to probably tickling 250 now. And I think with that, it's not just the weight; it's the strength is important, but it's the confidence that comes with being bigger. He feels good about himself physically. He can impose his will in the post. He's been hard to handle in terms of when he gets positioned. He's so skilled, and rewinding even 2 years ago when he didn't play very much during the cardboard cutout year, that he was just so calm and content, and content's not the right word. It was hard to get him rattled. When he was on the scout team, we try to trap him in different variety of things. He's very skilled. He'll be an integral part of us offensively, maybe not resulting in number of shots or points, but utilizing his skill sets at 7 feet, how good a passer he is, how good a feel for the game he has. Obviously, he can shoot it, but the confidence I've seen grow because he's bigger, stronger, and I think he likes my saying that be the windshield, not the bug. He's been the bug for the last year and a half or so. Now he's starting to control the paint on both ends of the floor.
Abby.
Greg, it's no question that Chucky Hepburn is a very charismatic person. I was wondering if you could take me back to your first interaction with him and what drew you to him personality-wise more than on the floor.
I think you see what I saw. I think he's become more comfortable in his voice and those things, and more charismatic. The first thing that drew it to me was how he played on the floor before I ever met him, really, when he came to camp, as he was a sophomore, I believe, going into his junior year. But just how he plays the game and how he's so even-keeled. He doesn't have – it's very hard to tell whether Chucky's having a good day, a bad day, a crappy day, he won the lottery. You can't tell, and that's very good, and that helped us immensely last year to hand the keys, so to speak, of the bus to a freshman and to have him handle. Now, he had some help around him. He had obviously a terrific player in Johnny and as steady and as good a leader as I've been around in Brad. So that helped that, I think. It helped him transition, but now he knows it's his time to step forward and use his personality and his ability to relate with his teammates and obviously still continue to improve his game too. And I think he's gotten better. He's better physically, but the leadership component will be a big part of us as we grow through a team. And you need point guards that are good leaders.
Evan, over here.
Coach, a lot of guys have talked about Carter Gilmore being one of the most improved guys on this roster. And he mentioned that, you briefly mentioned that you had a talk with him sort of mid-season when he kind of started to hit that wall and the minutes start to dip. I'm curious, if you can remember what you said to him that maybe sparked him attacking the offseason the way he did, and then, like you mentioned, just taking it more seriously.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it was anything magical that he said that I said, just that other than it's not. And I kind of leaned on some older guys that have been through it, that have gone through ups and downs of being a young player. That's not going to happen for you instantaneously. It's a process, and if you can fight through it, I think probably the phone call that did him the most good was from his mom, that said, "Stop feeling sorry for yourself and get your ass in there and play, and stop worrying about it. You're not the victim here." So Stephanie obviously delivered it much more direct than I did at that point in time. But he's just, you mentioned it, it's what you would hope you would see with the players that come through the program, how they mature, and the mental maturity that he's shown in terms of his approach every day, how he took the offseason so seriously and decided to, it's on me. It's not anybody else. It's me. And he has the results. He's gotten results. I mean, he's still now got to continue to do it when we turn the lights on in here and get into competition. But, I've consistently referred to him publicly as the team's probably most improved player. And a lot of that is, much like Steve Crowell, he's put the work in, so he has confidence in what he's done and trust that he's prepared and worked, and now feels good about that he's ready for this moment.
I'll take a couple more. Jim?
It's not an identical situation, but it's a similar one with Jim Leonard taking over mid-season. I don't know if you have a relationship, you've talked to him at all, but I'm curious what your advice would be to him since you lived it.
Yeah, I think I have talked to Jim. He's in a very, obviously unique situation, a very difficult situation. And I think you can probably draw the line that these similarities end at I was interim and moved into that position in very short notice. I think the things I just shared with him were be yourself, make it about the players, trust who you are, trust your gut. And he's obviously had experiences with a lot of people, a lot of different levels. He's been around terrific mentors, from his playing days here to the NFL to Coach Christ. I mean, he's as well prepared going into this type of moment probably as you can be. And now you go do it. And like I said, that was my couple of words of advice to him is, be who you are. It's still about the players, which is exactly how Paul always made it and how I make it and how we've always done it here. And then you got to be yourself and trust what feels right and what you're, and that takes a little time. That takes time sometimes to find your own voice, but I'm sure Jim will do a good job.
Jeff?
Griffin mentioned Chucky's development last year, but here that as the season went on, he looked for a shot more and became more comfortable. Do you anticipate that he can continue that progression, in particular if this team needs scoring, as a guy who can get a shot, and if it's not there, distribute to others?
Yeah, I think that's something that even through the course of last year we talked about. Chucky, you don't always have to defer to Brad and Johnny. So I think that's something he became more comfortable with. Probably no more comfortable than he did that last possession against Purdue, but he's gonna be in more of those situations where maybe the ball was in Johnny's hands or Brad's hands in a shot clock situation that he can make those plays, and he made plays. A lot of those sometimes resulted in the benefit or benefited one of his teammates, but he has the ability to do that and have that mindset, and he knows this is an opportunity for him. He's going to have a bigger stage and a brighter light on him, and he's excited about that opportunity.
Let's take one more.
Coach, how do you feel Conor is handling the transition to the play at this level? What have you seen from him? Obviously it's early, but what have you seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, he can really shoot. I think I don't want to play him at horse. But you just watch him, the technique. They all come off his hand looking like they're going in. He's got great rotation. He has a very good feel for the game. He's got to continue to get stronger, which isn't going to happen today or tomorrow. It's going to be a course of his building over the course of his career. But I saw some things in France in terms of his toughness. You look at him, he doesn't maybe look the part right now. He kind of looks a skinny kid, but man, he competed and he knows how to find the basket. And he made some plays over there in different games where it showed some scrappiness and some toughness and things that get you on the floor and keep you on the floor here. He's right now probably his head is spinning from a defensive standpoint. And that's normal. And the only way he's going to get through that is continue to guard Chucky, guard Jordan Davis, guard Tyler Wall, guard whoever, and he's going to have to get that experience. And his teammates are doing a good job of pushing him every day, and coaches are doing a good job of holding him accountable. And he'll learn. He'll continue to. He already knows. I mean, he made a play today where Now it has to become an instinct. It has to become a habit that you have to force the ball to the screen and get over a ball screen and all those things that maybe you could get away with as a high school player, that now the little things get magnified more.